culture. And Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This home, no giving. Stay devoted to your dream. These dance can have your favorite rhythm. If only you could use what you were given.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm so excited about our next guest because their music is badass. This front woman is a badass. So let's welcome to the show, Infected Rain. How are you?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that nice introduction.
Oh, my pleasure. And not only do I love your music and all your videos and stuff like that, but man, I love your guest appearances and live stuff and and now you have this new album coming out here that, this is probably your best music yet, I think. And I love the idea that you're experimental with music, because the thing that bothers me as an old school, long-term metalhead is there's so many metal bands out there that are just doing the same thing, almost like they're just plugging in a formula. And, there's so many bands out there that you have to do something to stick out. And that's exactly what you do.
Well, thank you. We've tried to set this so-called no rule policy when it comes to composing since the beginning, because it's just so difficult to follow a specific recipe when you like so many things, right? Like if you like music, you don't just like one genre, you like music. Music is something that makes you feel, music is something that speaks to you, and it can be in different genre. And growing up, that's what I did. I listened to different music. Yes, eventually when I was a teenager, I started so-called rebelling and listening to specifically alternative music mainly. But I've learned once again, and I've remembered once again how amazing all the music really is, slowly, like in closer to my 20s and after, up until now, I love music. And it would be so such a pity to just not create with what you like or how the way you like it to sound, just because you're trying to fit some sort of criteria. And I know not every metalhead agrees with me and you when it comes to that, because it's all about being distincting people from one another, like the differences. I don't understand why this is necessary in life, in culture, why is that necessary to be so like I am like this, and no step to the left or to the right, this is what I am.
Yeah.
If it works for you and for your art or for your job or for your life in general, because we are now talking in general, the rules that humans invent for themselves, to restrain themselves without even realizing that. And we live in a society like this. Look at what we are surrounded by. There's, you can't love this person because it's your same, it's your same gender. Or you can't dress that way because you're a boy, or you can't dress that way because you're a girl, or you can't sing in a metal band and add some electronic and some pop or some rap. Why not? Like, let's have fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just do it with positivity, as long as you don't hurting anybody, and as long as you are genuine and true to yourself. have fun. And that's what we are doing. That's all.
Totally. And my biggest line is just be you. Like it doesn't, you don't have to be what somebody thinks you should be, especially as an artist, because how can you really be a true artist unless you're being totally true to yourself and just it's just like me on the radio. Whatever floats in my head sometimes on my show will just come out. There's no filter. There's no, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be this. Maybe I should fit into this box.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because we are not perfect and we often make mistakes, and noticing something we said or did was out of line or maybe not appropriate is actually the first step to like recognition is the first step to becoming better. So there's nothing wrong with realizing, like, let's say tomorrow you watch this and you're like, I wish I said this different. That's totally fine. We need to perfect what we're doing, no matter if it's for fun or if it's for money or that's our career or that's just something we do in the house. We should at least strike for perfection, right?
Yeah.
And so it's totally fine if we do mistakes. We're human beings, and like something
No doubt.
I've done a year ago, maybe I will be better this year, hopefully, because I try to at least notice these things. But of course, we don't even notice a lot of things that we do so-called wrong. You know, it's the same with shows and music and everything. I'm often rewatching certain things. I'm like, I should do this differently next time or whatever, you know, like just because we don't see ourselves in the moment. We don't see ourselves. We don't like watch. We are not the watcher. We are the protagonist. We are the one talking. And often we get carried away with emotions, and it's okay. Just like, you know.
I'm sure you do it. I all the time. Like I'll watch and listen to my interviews after the fact and critique it as the person watching it or listening to it that I didn't even notice because I'm in the zone while I'm doing the interview. But I'm also my own worst critic, as I'm sure you are, and every artist is, because everybody else will say, wow, that was great. And I'm sitting there going, well, actually, blah, 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 in my head.
Yeah. And I don't know. I often do think about it. And what is the right way to react there? Like, for example, we recently had a show that I am very unsatisfied with for many reasons. Some reasons were not connected to me. Some reasons were not connected to my band. It was like local reason, technical problems, certain things that were done different and we trusted, you know, and then certain things I didn't do up to my standards. And I have an explanation why, but I don't want to be that person that is like finding excuses, you know. And people kept telling us how awesome the show was, and I kept having the urge to say thank you, but I know it wasn't. We had so many difficulties. I was so nauseous, and it was on the cruise. I never performed on a cruise, and so many excuses, right? And I stop myself often and think, people don't even need these excuses. They are so excited. They tell you about their emotions, and even if they are exaggerating a little bit because they are such big fans, and they maybe they even know that you can be better because they've seen you live before or something, you know. Some people did, or maybe that was their first time. And I don't know, I often think, do we have to tell them everything that is behind the scene? From one side, you want them to know, because then, you know, it's good when the listeners and the fans, they do realize how much more is involved in a show, just like your show right now. How much is involved in, like, I never even used this platform, for example, you know, like, you know, and stuff like that. Like this background you chose with the album, I'm sure you put so much work in it. It looks fantastic. Thank you so much, by the way.
Well, thank you.
You know, and things like that people don't know how you did it, and what are the little maybe obstacles that you might find every day, because we depend on technology, we depend on programs, we depend on other people, we depend on gadgets, we depend on the ship moving in that moment. I was depending on that. Apparently I'm way more motion sensitive than I thought, even though I took precaution. I did, just in case. I guess, I don't know, you know.
I was going to ask you about that too, because I saw on your socials being on 70,000 tons of metal, and most of what I saw was all the fun you were having, which was so cool. But then I'm thinking to myself, as an artist, man, it must be really difficult, like, to perform, especially if the boat's swaying. Forget getting sick for a second, because that's one whole problem.
Yeah.
But even like I've been standing on a boat and just standing there, and the boat moved me. So if you're performing,
on the first performance, we had 2 shows. On the first show, I fell on my butt. I had like a big bruise on my butt cheek because I actually, on the third or fourth song, it was already late evening. It was when the cruise moved. We played the first day, and I didn't realize that that's what happened, but my floor all of a sudden went away from under my feet. Wow. And I was jumping like normal. I didn't think that I had to move a little bit different, maybe on a moving vessel, but I guess you live and learn.
There you go.
Yeah, but thank you. We tried to show some awesome moments from the cruise, but there was a lot of challenges for all the musicians. We got to talk with a lot of bands, and a lot of bands, like one band even canceled their performance. They had the same situation as ours. There was some like gear that was lost, and at least not delivered in time, let's say that, because it was never fully lost. They found it when we didn't need it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And that happens even on tour, right? That happens all the time on tour. People don't know. I was at one of the festivals in Europe. I think it was I think it was Hellfest. And one of the bands, their stuff did not get there. And so another band let them use their instruments, which was way cool that everybody, helped each other. But then even so, it's like you're used to your own equipment.
Thank you. That's one thing people don't realize, because often people that are not musicians, actual performing musicians, people that are part of crew even, that's what they tried to tell us. They're like, we will find you instruments, we will find you instruments. But we were like, okay, every band has unique instruments. My guitar player plays half of the show on 7-string guitars and another half on 8. Now, not many people even have a 7-string guitar, because the most common one is 6.
Right.
Then the bass. Bass player, even though it's 4-string, is specific tuning, and you have to untune and tune a different instrument for someone. The weight of the instrument is different. Everything is so different. The strings are different. Like, my bass player did not have her bass. We did have amazing musicians stepping up and trying to help us. I want to say thank you, by the way, so much. Oh my God, we had 3 or 4 different bands trying their best to help us during this moment. And finally, she borrowed an instrument, but she hurt her fingers so much because she was not used to the chords that were specifically put on this instrument. Mm-hmm. And there are so many ups and downs. And then the same happened with the drummer. The drummer didn't have his own snare, which is also tuned in a certain way. And also, it's a certain sound that we are all kind of used to. And everything sounded different, everything. And let's not forget about the stress. Up until 10 minutes before the showtime, we thought we're not going to play. That's how stressful that was. And, what are you going to say? You don't play because you don't have instruments? You have the right to do that. That's what the other band did. I believe Equilibrium had the same situation as us, and they didn't even play. And I don't blame them. We took the hit, and we decided to play no matter what. And, of course, we did our best. Of course, people were happy to see us, because there were a lot of people there for us, and it was so cool that they stopped letting people in this little area where we were performing. But at the same time, you want, especially big events like festivals, to be as perfect as possible for a band, because festivals are out there for exposure mainly. Unless you're the headliner, you're the main guest, and then that's not for exposure. That's, a little bit different. You are bringing people. We're talking about every other band that plays at festivals. There was 60 bands on this cruise. We were there mainly, 90% of these bands were there for exposure. That means doing your best to sound your best, to look your best, so people can come back hopefully and see you when you tour, and that is the disappointing part, because if we are not happy with our own performance, yeah, of course it matters how much people say they liked the performance, absolutely, of course. However, we are not satisfied with ourselves,
Right.
and with everything that happened. And we did our best, of course. We know we did our best, and we had our best crew that did their best, and the local crew did their best. But it's just circumstances of the things all kind of went together, and it led to that, Which again, it was an experience. We tried to learn from our experiences, and hopefully people do understand how stressful it is for a band to play in those conditions.
I hope they really do, because and you're mentioning festivals. I think it's way more stressful for a band at a festival, because sometimes it's not your sound people. Sometimes this happened. I think it was a couple years ago, 9 Inch Nails was playing Welcome to Rockville, and it's so freaking humid in Florida that something went haywire, and Trent's vocals you couldn't hear. And he had to stop like 3 times.
Yeah.
And like, if I was in that position, which I've been in that position too, it's like people don't realize how much stress that is, or how bad you feel, because of course, this is, maybe there's somebody there only seeing you for the first time.
Yes.
And they think that's what you're all about.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And then of course you don't want people to, have this memory, and especially share this memory with other friends and be like, they are okay live. You want to be the band that they want to see live, of course, because live shows is where everything is at. The emotion and the adrenaline and everything a musician feels on stage is why we are going through all this stress and discomfort on tour. It's for this 1 hour on stage, if we're lucky. Yeah. Sometimes it's less, 45 minutes. Sometimes it's more, 75 minutes, So it depends on the conditions that you agree on, and depends on the tour, and depends on the festival. But festivals are unpredictable. You don't have time for sound check unless maybe the headliner. And when I say maybe, I mean if there is time, if they fly in time with no delays, because sometimes there is time, but you have delays on the other side. There are so many factors that can impact a band's performance that like a couple of pages would not be enough, both sides, for me to fill up how many things influence how you sound, how you look, how you feel on stage. For example, on my second performance on the same cruise, I had a device that was not working. This device is what gives me sound for myself. My in-ear monitors were attached to this wireless little body pack, let's say, that was malfunctioning. It was just turning off. On song number 1, after the very first 2 words I said, it turned fully off. Wow. Now I cannot stop the song. It's the first song. I take it off, give it to the crew, and I continue singing without hearing anything, like a deaf person. That doesn't mean audience didn't hear me. So what I'm trying to say is what the audience hears, and the quality of what the audience hears is not even close to what we hear on stage. And in order for us to perform well, we have to hear as good as possible, as awesome as possible, as close as possible to what we are used to. Because all of a sudden, I don't hear myself. I don't hear the musicians. I don't even know if I'm in the right part of the song. Granted, it's a song that we played many, many times, and I could go by memory, but that's not fun. Not fun to go by memory and hope that everything's fine. The problem continued even with the second song. And it was a heavier, more difficult song where I don't really have time to stop and breathe and check what's going on. And in my head, the stress about it, that feeling that I'm going to have to deal with this with the entire show, also influences my mood, right? My mood, in a way or another, is reflected through my voice. And I really despise that very much. That's something that has so many ups and downs in my career, my instrument being my own body.
Yeah.
Because if I am very emotional about what's going on or about the song, people will feel it. And often it's the good emotion that I do want to deliver. I focus on that. If the sound is good and I have no problems, that's what I'm focusing on. And I continue with that, and I can deliver as good as I can that day at my, let's say, at my best that day, right? Because we all
Yeah.
feel different days. But if I have extra problems, so many at the same time, it's quite difficult for me to filter these emotions and not think about them and not have anxiety about that. Like straight up anxiety that
Hmm.
you went such a long way to be here, and now who knows whose fault this is. The person that gave me that body pack didn't even know what happened. He comes to me, so what happened with it? I was like, I don't know, you tell me. It's your equipment.
Right.
Not even mine. So you tell me. I didn't even jump once. I said 2 words and it turned off. So again, I don't want to.
That's stressful
I don't
too.
want, exactly. I don't want to speak badly about any crew. We are very grateful for local crew, our crew. We are depending on them though,
Yes.
you know, and often not knowing or not understanding what's going on with your own equipment, you know, how can I solve it? So
Well,
it
because
was
you get in a zone on
he did his
stage
best
too.
though. Hey, again, no finger pointing here, but it
Yeah.
happened. That's what I've been through. Insanely stressful.
And you get in a zone when you go on stage. So when something like that happens, it snaps you out of the zone, which makes it like so hard to get back in the zone because you
Oh
kind
yeah.
of prep your head before you go on stage. And then the minute that mic turns on, I know it happens for me, there's like a switch in your head that, and if you have technical issues, I had it happen recently because I'm currently in Costa Rica. And
Yeah.
the first interview I did in Costa Rica, where I'm not in my own studio, I had the wrong mic, like mic'd up, but didn't know at first. And then I realized, and then I'm in the middle of the interview. I can't stop the interview. I
Yeah.
can't, like, you know, I just had to go with it. But the whole time I'm thinking, oh, this is going to sound like crap.
And
You know?
stopping often stopping a show cuts the time. For example,
Yeah.
like me and you, we have a specific amount of time because I have a
Yeah.
different interview after. Same during festivals. We have a specific time on stage. And if I would have been like, you know, I'm sorry for my French, fuck this, solving problem first, then I will continue. That
Exactly.
might have meant minus a couple of songs, maybe even more, because nobody even knew what the problem was. So I decided
Exactly.
to go, you know, hardcore, gave, you know, the device to people to look into, continue the show, even though I was actually hurting myself and I was mentally insanely anxious. Let's say that.
Yeah.
And it's not something you want to do. It's not, especially, you know, when you are there for exposure and there's, in a way, some sort of like, I don't know, you put these expectations on yourself in a way, you know, you're like, fuck
Exactly.
yeah, we need to like show the best we can here, you know, because hey, we didn't even like have enough to pay off our trip. So that's what I'm trying to say. Often bands do that,
Totally.
you know,
Totally.
without even receiving a dime. Or I mean, that's not what I'm trying to say. Bands do receive their fees, but often these fees are not even enough to cover your trip, but you still
Yeah.
think it's worth it and you want to go for it and you want to do it, and it's often worth it. But
Yeah.
when you have all this going on, you are like, was it even worth it, really? You know? And you don't want to have this kind of thoughts as a musician. You don't
Yeah.
want to have those are negative, destructive kind of thoughts.
Well, as a fan, I think it's totally worth it from the fan side because a bad live show is better than no live show, in my opinion. And you guys are badass.
Thank you.
Tell everybody how everybody can reach out to you on socials, connect on socials, how they can get the new album Time, which drops on February 9th, and check out your tour dates, all that good stuff.
Well, it's as easy as find the official website of the band that you're interested in. Ours is just infectedrain.com. All the information is there. All the news about the upcoming material, upcoming tours, available merch, available meet and greet is all there. We made it as accessible and as easy as possible for everybody to understand. You can change the language, you can click and find everything there. Our album comes out indeed February 9th. However, tomorrow is a very special day for us as well, because a new single from this album drops as a small little gift, pre-album drop. So
I love it.
Don't forget to click that as well.
I love it. And I know you got to go. So is there any final words you want to leave the listeners with?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Even though I was quite complaining right now, of course, we had fun meeting a lot of people. And of course, we had fun hanging out with a lot of people and discovering many new things for us. So just know that we are very strict with ourselves, and we are trying our best always to deliver what we can, the best we can that day. And I'm not only speaking about Infected Rain. It's a human factor. It's about every single band on this planet that plays live.
Absolutely. And, I'm glad you said all that stuff, because I don't look at it as complaining. I look at it as simply informing people what you go through every day so that they can understand, because everybody has a good day, bad day.
Thankfully, sorry to interrupt. Thankfully, that's very rare occasions. The more experienced you get, let's say, the more shows you play, the more you understand what you need to in the future to avoid certain things. And I believe, as I said, we also learn many things of how to avoid like situations. So it's actually very rare nowadays that we have situations like that. Very rare. And that's why it was so frustrating for us, because we were like, okay, it's been a while since stuff like that happened to us. You know what I mean? Like, we invest and we believe in our crew so much, and we trust each other so much, and we try to grow so much together to avoid. We talk about our performance after we perform or after a tour, and we try to, perfect things and make things a little bit better if possible. But it's unpredictable sometimes, and thankfully it doesn't happen often, but it does still happen to everybody.
That's right.
So
and
don't judge a band by one or two shows that you've seen. Don't judge them immediately. Give them extra tries, because trust me, it is often even less than 50% depends on the band during a live show. Even less than 50 often.
Well, I think you're an incredible musician, incredible artist.
Thank you.
You guys do rock live, and your new music is insane. People are going to love it. So thanks for giving that to us, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you for having me. Have a beautiful day. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.